Imagine waking up tomorrow to complete silence. No alarms, no traffic, no voices, just wind and the distant sound of birds reclaiming a world that was never really theirs to lose. Now imagine that this silence is not a morning. It is forever. What would happen if every single human being on Earth simply vanished? Not through war, not through disease, not through catastrophe, just gone. 7 billion people erased from existence in an instant. What would the planet do next? This is not a question about the end of the world. It is a question about what the world actually is beneath the roads, beneath the cities, beneath everything we have built and called civilization. Strip away the human layer, and something extraordinary begins to unfold. Within the first hour, the power grids would begin to fail. Modern electrical systems require constant human monitoring. Without operators at the controls, automated shutoffs would trigger across the network. Within days, most of the world's electricity would go dark. Nuclear plants, designed with fail-safe systems, would gradually shut themselves down. Coal and gas plants would simply run out of fuel and stop. The lights of Earth, visible from space, would flicker and die one by one. But something else would begin almost immediately. The air would start to clear. Humans pump roughly 37 billion metric tons of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere every year. The moment that stops, the chemistry of the sky begins to shift. It would take centuries to fully reverse, but the process would begin within weeks. Smog over cities would lift. Rivers choked with industrial runoff would start to flush themselves clean. The ocean, absorbing less pollution each year, would slowly begin to recover its chemical balance. Nature does not wait for permission. Within the first year, something remarkable would happen in the cities. Plants would begin to crack through pavement. Roots, patient and relentless, would split concrete along every seam. Grass would push through sidewalks. Vines would climb the sides of skyscrapers. The geometry of the urban world, all right angles and steel, would begin to blur at the edges as green life returned. Animals would follow. Deer, foxes, wolves, and bears, long pushed to the margins of human territory, would begin moving into cities within months. Birds would nest in office buildings. Fish populations in rivers and coastal waters, freed from overfishing and pollution, would begin to rebound within years. The oceans, the lungs of the planet, would slowly return to a richer, more biodiverse state. Within a decade, forests would begin reclaiming farmland. The vast agricultural plains of North America, Europe, and Asia, stripped of their natural ecosystems over centuries, would not immediately become forests. First would come the pioneer species, wildflowers and grasses, then shrubs, then the slow march of trees, creeping across the landscape at the pace of decades. But here is where something surprising happens. The megafauna, the large animals that evolution shaped alongside human pressure, would not simply thrive without limits. Ecosystems are not just the sum of their species. They are relationships, predator and prey, competition and cooperation. Without humans hunting certain species into suppression, some populations would initially explode. Deer herds, without hunters or significant predators in many regions, would balloon. Vegetation would be stripped in some areas before balance reasserted itself through starvation and disease. Nature does not return to some perfect original state. It recalibrates. It finds a new equilibrium, and that process is messy, unpredictable, and completely indifferent to human ideas of beauty or order. Within 100 years, most wooden structures would be gone, decayed, collapsed, reclaimed. Glass and steel buildings would stand longer, but without maintenance, water would find every crack. Rust would creep through every exposed iron beam. Facades would crumble. The great skylines of New York, Shanghai, Tokyo, they would become ruined forests of steel and glass, slowly being consumed by the organisms that were always waiting. The Chernobyl exclusion zone offers a striking preview. When humans abandoned that region in 1986 after the nuclear disaster, nature did not hesitate. Within years, forests had expanded dramatically. Wildlife returned in numbers that shocked researchers. Wolves, lynx, and wild horses colonized the empty land. The radiation did not stop life. Only the humans were gone, and that more than any other factor allowed ecosystems to recover. After 10,000 years, the geological record of human civilization would be surprisingly thin. The structures we build today, despite their apparent permanence, would be largely unrecognizable. The Great Wall of China, the Pyramids of Giza, these monuments of stone might still stand as eroded shapes, but most of what we consider modern civilization would leave little more than a chemical signature in the rock layers, a thin band of plastic particles, traces of heavy metals, a slight shift in the isotopic composition of certain sediments. This thin layer in the geological record is what scientists today call the Anthropocene, the age of humans. And without humans to continue it, that age would simply stop being written. What would persist longest? Perhaps our radio signals. Since the early 20th century, humanity has been broadcasting electromagnetic waves into space. These signals travel at the speed of light and they do not stop. They are already tens to hundreds of light years away from Earth, spreading outward through the galaxy. Our voices, our music, our broadcasts, they would continue traveling long after every building had crumbled and every road had been buried under forest. In a strange sense, the most durable artifact of human civilization would be the least physical thing we ever made. And here is the question that lingers when you follow this thought to its end. If a planet recovers completely from billions of years of life, if ecosystems regenerate, if biodiversity rebounds, if rivers run clear and skies go clean, then what exactly was lost when the humans disappeared? The answer is not the Earth. The Earth would be fine. Arguably, in purely ecological terms, the Earth would be better. What would be lost is something harder to measure: the capacity for wonder. The ability to look up at the stars and ask why they exist. The only known species in the universe that builds cathedrals, writes symphonies, invents mathematics, and looks at a planet teeming with life and feels something as inexplicable as awe. The universe, as far as we know, does not care about any of this. It will continue whether or not any mind exists to observe it. Stars will be born and die. Galaxies will drift and collide. The arrow of time will keep moving in its one permitted direction, indifferent to meaning. But meaning, as far as we know, only exists in minds that look outward and ask questions. If every human vanished tomorrow, the world would heal. Nature would return. Life would go on in extraordinary, beautiful, complicated ways. The only thing missing would be anyone left to notice.